Hello everyone, welcome to Mimi's Storytime. Today is a history on Margaret Wise Brown, who probably in today's era is best known for Goodnight Moon and The Runaway Bunny, both of which have become enduring classics over the decades since they were written. Margaret Wise Brown is the author of those. We will also go over Goodnight Moon and the illustrator for this book, Clement Hurd. But mostly this is going to be about Margaret Wise Brown. Okay, then in the next video, the reason we're talking about this is the next video is going to be Goodnight Moon. And the book is, I fear the history is going to, of the author is going to be longer than the book itself. So that's why I'm doing a separate video on her. Okay, Margaret Wise Brown. You would have to get, if you really, this is going to be a summary of a lot. If you would really like to know her life, by all means, find your favorite search engine and look her up, because she led a very interesting life. I don't think she let anything stop her. She was just gung-ho, man. Okay, so Goodnight Moon was not her first book, but it's, like I said, it's probably her most famous nowadays. It was first published in 1947. Let's see, the original name for this book was Good Night Room, based on a dream she had of a memory. She and her sister would had a little ritual at bedtime. They would say goodnight to everything in their room, their toys, the furniture, everything they could see. They told it goodnight. And once she had the dream reminding herself of this, she got up the next day and she wrote this book. It's very short, but it's very sweet, and it's very much what a lot of kids will do when they go to bed. Okay, so this book did not do well. It was published in 1947. Initially, for a long time, it did not do well, and I'm fixing to tell you why. It was labeled unbearably sentimental by a battle axe called Anne Carroll Moore. She was a retired librarian, but still heavily involved with the daily goings-on of the New York City Library. If you've never seen the New York City Library, again, do a Google search. The library is humongous and has some of the most rare title books in the world, highly valuable. Some parts of the library you can't even go into unless you are a doctor or a reporter, and you have to have special passes to see these books. So it's I've never been there, but I've heard it's a rather marvelous place. So anyway, Anne Carroll Moore, again, the retired librarian, she would go through any incoming books that were newly published, and she would decide whether or not she liked them. If she didn't like them, they were not allowed inside the library. Patrons could not get a hold of that book from that library. So when she no longer was controlling everything, that's when this book was finally allowed into the New York City Library. It did not, and it wasn't allowed in the library until 1972. And that's when the interest for this book took off, because Miss Moore was no longer in control. And that's such a shame, because when you edit books or when you read books, you kind of have to keep in mind that even though it's not to your taste, it's not necessarily a bad book, and other people might like it. That's why I'm not a fan of banning stuff, because what just doesn't work for you. It's like, I hate the book, The Scarlet Letter. I think it's boring. There are people who just gush over that book, and meanwhile I'm going, it's not. But that doesn't mean, just because I don't like it, doesn't mean I want to get rid of it, because there are a whole lot of other people who love that book. Anyway, for another one, For Whom the Bell Tolls, just go ahead, Just go ahead and get me a coffin. Let me crawl up in it. Just go ahead and bury me. I I can't stand that book. And it is absolutely considered a solid classic. Not to me. I can't stand that book. Uh, but that doesn't mean I feel like I need to not let other people have a shot at reading it. Okay. So now that I've gotten past my hatred for Whom the Bell Tolls and the Scarlet Letter, let's move on, shall we? All right. So when she decided to publish this book, she had seen some paintings by the illustrator. His name is Clement Hurd. She liked his paintings and asked if he would consider illustrating children's books. And he said, okay. His wife, Clement Hurd, her name was Edith. She was also a children's literature writer, and he ended up illustrating all of her books, I think, which were between around 50. Yeah, he illustrated about 50 books that his wife wrote. In total, he illustrated more than 100 children's books. All right, so let's see. Now, Margaret Wise Brown had this just fabulous life. She stayed busy. She had so many different interests. She came down with a case of appendicitis and had to have emergency surgery to take care of it. And after the surgery, the surgeon visited her to check on her, and in a show of bravado to show the doctor just how well she felt, while laying on the bed, she kicked a leg up in the air. And parents will understand this. She threw a blood clot, and it traveled to her brain, and she died of a brain embolism at the age of 42 in 1952. Which is a shame. She was highly creative. She was an unusual person. I mean, she was like the type that went 90 miles an hour with her hair on fire all the time. She was the very first editor of a children's literature publishing company called W.R. Scott. It is no longer it's no longer around. It was bought out by another publishing company a long time ago. She not only wrote under her own name, she had pen names that were men's names for obvious reasons, because publishing companies didn't always want to publish women's books because they thought it was just what the old-fashioned word, they thought it was claptrap. All right, so she also wrote under the pen names of Timothy Hay, Golden MacDonald, and Juniper Sage. Now, whenever she would write as Juniper Sage, it was with Eden Thatcher Hurd. Again, Edith Hurd was the wife of Clement Hurd, the illustrator, but Margaret Wise Brown did collaborate with Edith Hurd, so that's when you see her called Juniper Sage. Anyway, moving on to a personal belief of Margaret Wise Brown. You won't see fantasy from her. Wild, fantastical books. She went to college, and she was mainly taught by teachers who believed in reality-based things. They believe that children should be kept more in reality rather than inventing fantastical situations, which I think that it's important to kind of have both in your life. But anyway, she believed children preferred to read books based on reality rather than fantasy, so her books are reality-based. Let's see. All right. Now, Clement Hurd himself, again, he illustrated all of his wife's, Edith Hurd's books, about a little over 50 of those, over 100 total. He painted, he did other books, he illustrated other books besides. This was a very prolific artist. He passed away in 1988 of Alzheimer's. Okay, this book, Goodnight Moon, is won an award from the National Education Association, which means it's the teacher's top 100 books for children. It's also considered a top 100 picture book in America. A little bit of modern day, maybe controversy is a little bit too harsh of a word. A little fussiness from parents, I guess. I don't know. Fussing from parents. Back in the day, everybody smoked. Well, maybe not everybody. I would say the majority of everybody. If you watched movies, TV shows, everybody had a cigarette in their hand just about. All right, so smoking was normal. Through the decades, smoking has greatly decreased because people are more aware of the medical problems that come with smoking. So the original picture in the book, there are no pictures of the author or illustrator in this book. It's a library book. I guess they didn't include it in this one. But originally the picture of Clement Hurd, he was a smoker. And it showed him holding a cigarette between his fingers. On the 60th anniversary of Goodnight Moon, the cigarette was digitally removed with permission from his son, John Hurd. His son was not happy about this, but he went ahead and gave the permission. The son would have preferred another picture be used without him having a cigarette, so it would be less weird, but anyway, they digitally removed the cigarette. And it due to the influence of parents wanting just the whole idea of smoking to go away. They say the picture looks odd because his hand appears to be floating in air. Now, it's my understanding that current copies of Goodnight Moon do contain an updated picture of Clement Hurd without a cigarette. So there you go. There is a brief history of Margaret Wise Brown, Clement Hurd, and the story behind how Goodnight Moon came about. There will be more Margaret Wise Brown stories. So that's why I decided to do her own history, because her history is long. All of this is long. Anyway, next story coming up, Goodnight Moon. Until then, see y'all later. Bye-bye.